for 15 plus years and have loved every minute of it. They're an awesome partner of ours, and we're excited that you guys joined us tonight for this whiskey tasting. Just a high-level overview. Most of you are familiar with SKC, but we design, build, manage everything from your headsets to your collaboration, cloud needs, AV, anything that you guys need to function day to day, we can help you. And this is the team that we're bringing to the table right now to assist you guys in that migration to cloud, because it's not if, it's now when are you moving to the cloud. And so we're lucky enough to partner with Avaya Cloud Office, who is going to walk through a demo of the solution, and then we'll get to the even more fun part and do the whiskey tasting. So I'd like to introduce Steve, and I'll kick it over to you.
Thanks, Kelsey. Yeah, I totally understand. I am the opening attraction and Christina is the main event. So I'm going to try and keep this somewhat short and light because I understand my role in the world and I am just Christina's door opener. So what I'd like to do is share with you a little bit about Avaya Cloud Office. And, I also want to just point out, we've been working with SKC for a very long time. In fact, the last trip that I went on pre-pandemic was out to their conference. I hope to get back out there for the next one. But in the meantime, we'll do these virtual events. They're just as fun. So let me go through and share my screen really quick. And if you can give me a quick shout when you can see my screen.
I can see it.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Awesome. Oh, thank you. So, a lot of times customers ask, why would I want to move to cloud? What are the benefits? What are the features that I get from moving to cloud? And to me, there's really one key feature. There are a lot of benefits, but there's one key feature that you can realize by moving to a cloud communication system from your data centers and your on-site systems. And it's best told through a customer story. So after the pandemic, in June of 2020, I was queued up to meet with an Avaya customer. And the account teams prepped me for the meeting. They let me know that this was a longtime Avaya customer that was using our on-premise communication manager system. And when the pandemic struck, they took advantage of our temporary licensing offer at the time. We were giving customers free remote worker licenses so they could get their workforces out of the office and to the safety of their homes. And they did that almost overnight with that licensing offer. And now in June, the licensing was coming up on expiration, and they just wanted to have a quick call before placing an order to make the licensing permanent. As soon as we jumped on the call, I quickly realized this was going to be a different kind of meeting. The CIO shared with us a very stark reality at the beginning of the meeting. They let us know that since the pandemic had begun, they had recognized no meaningful revenues. So for them, they moved everybody to home around March 1st. Here we are meeting at the end of June, and they haven't had any revenue. So this is a pretty, frightful thing. They had to have workforce reductions as they went. This is a company that treats staff like family. So letting go of anybody was a painful decision. And because the economy at that point had not appreciably improved for them, they were staring down the barrel of another painful decision. So their CEO tasked all business leaders to dig through the couches, shake the trees, find any spare change that you could to offset potential headcount reductions, because a little across a lot of budgets meant fewer people they may have to say goodbye to. And the CIO shared with us a little bit of conflict because they were at a crossroads. They had to find costs to squeeze out of the business, but they also had to invest in the infrastructure. That was the whole reason we were meeting. The licensing was about to expire. So we talked about this, and he proactively, mentioned cloud. Maybe cloud can solve this for us. And the CIO isn't unlike most customers that I've talked to over the last 18 months in this regard. They're looking at the cloud around, this phone system milestone. But when you really kind of zoom out, you can find some cost savings as well. And that's what we did with this customer. We, pardon the pun, I said, I know what you're doing for, your phone system, your communication manager, all the associated costs with that. But what are you using for video meetings? What are you using for messaging? And, they were using Zoom, so pardon the pun, and they were using Slack. And there's nothing wrong with those apps. They're great apps. but they were standalone purchases. When the company pre-pandemic needed a video platform, they looked at what was in market and they adopted a video application. And they did the same thing with messaging. They went out and bought Slack. And each of these things were a mouth to feed in a best of breed multi-vendor solution, which is not uncommon in most organizations. So we said, if you look at what's included in your best of breed multi-vendor solution, is it a luxury you can afford? And even if you could, is it delivering anything differentiated than what you get by adopting a best of bundle mindset? Because when you look at services like Avaya Cloud Office or any real cloud service, a lot of those things that used to be apps have become features in a bundle. It works with email, it works with contact center, it works with phone systems. You can cut your costs by consolidating the spend sprawl. And in the past, you did best of breed because each solution provider added some type of unique functionality, and moving to a best of suite mindset would have meant compromise. Those days are long gone. So what we were talking about was, evaluate the solutions that come bundled in and compare them to what you're getting with the existing solutions. And what you're going to probably find is there's not really any difference between the two. And it led the CIO to muse out loud, and I use this quote all the time, is you want to ask, what am I potentially paying twice for in my organization's technology stack? And does it do anything to justify the duplicated expense? So for this organization, switching out video meetings was easy. It's just Outlook plugins and new calendar invites. The messaging was a different discussion. Now, I'll tell you, spoiler alert, they did end up consolidating. They canceled Slack and they moved fully to Avaya Cloud Office because there was a financial benefit to doing that. There are a lot of organizations that have adopted messaging platforms from, say, Microsoft, and they don't have that pain point. So we'll talk a little bit later about the ability to not impact your business, even if you're using somebody else for certain elements of the stack. If it's not driving overhead on you, you don't necessarily need to move. So for the CIO, the cost savings ultimately was the feature in moving to a cloud-based service. But it's not short-term thinking. The CIO is converting from capital expense licensing. I buy licensing, I sweat the assets. Now I'm moving to a per user per month model. Is this going to be short-term minded cost savings over a long-term cost increase? And the reality of the situation is no. The total cost of ownership and operations of a cloud-based service is almost always lower than its on-premise counterpart. And there's a great way to visualize this. If you imagine your organization, the amount of seats that you have, the amount of users that need devices, and you put out to bid. You get a quote from a software company for those specs, and you get a quote from a cloud company with the exact same specs. The solutions that they're proposing are essentially icebergs. And the proposal is the part of the ice above the surface. And when you look at them, you'll probably think you've got apples to apples, because both of them include per user line items. On the software side, it's a license. On the cloud side, it's a subscription. Both of them include the devices that are needed, desk phones, headsets, video cameras, and the like. And both of them include some implementation fees. Now, when I was a customer, I would have done the ROI math. Yes, I've got to spend the money now to buy the licensing, but if I depreciate it over a 5-year period, there'll be this magic moment where the software saves me money compared to the cloud, because while I don't spend now, I'm spending the same every month from now until the end of time. So I would have signed for the software. And when you sign on either proposal, this is when you get in the water. And if you chose the software, you would have realized quickly you might have made a big mistake, because the ice is really, really deep when you try and build your own solution. There's a lot of stuff that's not on the proposal that you need, starting with a data center. You need somewhere to host the application. So you're talking about rack space rental, power, cooling, backups, batteries, generators. You're talking about somewhere to run the application. So now we're talking about compute, storage, virtualization, hardware, and licensing. You need carrier services, so this way you can talk to the outside world. So SIP trunks, T1s, POTS lines. You're talking about network access, so this way your users can get to the application in the data center, MPLS, internet, point-to-point T1 and such. And then you wrap all of that stuff in maintenance contracts, and you wrap all of that in the human cost to operate. But even if you kind of put your nose to the grindstone, you push through all those things, and you just invest in everything I just described, you've created a single point of failure. If you want to make the application highly available, times 2. Want to make it globally redundant, times 3, times 4, times 5. Building your own is really expensive. On the cloud side, when you get in the water, you're going to realize the ice is really shallow. Sure, you need some internet access so your users can get to the cloud, but that's about it. Everything else is above the surface. It's built into the subscription, which means not only is your total cost of operations lower, you have predictability on what it's going to cost on a user by user basis to operate your communications infrastructure. There's also something even more valuable for, I think back of me as an IT guy when I was on the customer side, and that's upgrades. You know, I'm from Massachusetts. I grew up hearing maybe next year, kid. I'm a sports fan. And when the ball ran through Buckner's legs, that haunted me to no death. That statement followed me in my professional career, because when I moved into IT, I would dutifully prepare, upgrade proposals for my phone system. And most years, I heard from my line of business manager, maybe next year, because inaction is an option. And the telephony infrastructure, as long as you're getting dial tone, a lot of times you think, well, if it ain't broke, why spend money to fix it? Cloud services are really unlike anything else that you buy. With most solutions that you buy, the first day is the best day. When you buy a car, you don't get upgrades included, right? You drive it off the lot, it's all downhill from there. The new car smell fades, kids leave wrappers all over the toy or all over the car. The first day is the best day. With cloud services, it's the exact opposite. The first day is actually the worst day. As awesome as these services are, they're only going to get better over time because upgrades are included with the subscription. So that means no more fighting the Hunger Games battles every year, trying to get budget for your upgrades and fighting against the network guys and the line of business guys and the server guys. And it means always having access to the latest and greatest functionality. The service that you buy today, even though it's pretty amazing, is only going to be better when your contract is over. And that can be extremely valuable for our friends in IT because it gets them out of the operations business and gets them into the solving problems business. That really is where the value of a cloud solution comes. So if cost savings are the main feature, that doesn't mean there's not a ton of benefits to a cloud-based service. And this is really where our partnership with RingCentral stands above anything else that's in the market. This is a solution that's unlike anything that's come before it. It takes the best of the RingCentral Magic Quadrant leading platform, highly available, 5 nines guaranteed uptime. That means it will be unavailable for less than 5 minutes a year, or we have to cut you a check. And we have not had to pay any penalty fees in years. It's got a buffet line of data that comes in the form of analytics. We measure everything that goes on with your account. And you get all of the services that users need today, calling, messaging, and meetings, in a single app, in a single subscription, which lowers your TCO. And because it's so tightly integrated, it's super easy to use. It increases productivity. We've also added innovation from the Avaya side. We've added innovation in devices. So all of our J-series phones are now fully compatible with the Ring platform. We've brought over our Vantage desktop device, which runs Android, so you can get the calling, messaging, and meeting experience on your desk, not just calls. And we've also brought over our huddle room camera that uses the same operating system, Android. So as we return to the offices, when your users need to join meetings, one of the things we've learned from the pandemic, you can't always control what you're invited to meet on. Your users don't need IT to help them dial into a Zoom meeting. Even though you've standardized on ACO, Bob from Accounts Payable will get somebody who invites him to a Microsoft Teams meeting or a Cisco WebEx meeting. All he's got to do is download the app from the App Store on the Vantage or in the CU360 in the huddle room and join the meeting that he's been invited to. Simple and easy. Now, we also brought over our features to Avaya Cloud Office, which means you'll have disruptive benefits, calling, messaging, and meetings, analytics, without the disruption to your business. You're going to have features like bridged appearances, call park and page, which means your business process today is the same tomorrow. You're not spending time training your end users on how to do the stuff they already do. You're focusing that training efforts into leveraging the built-in toolkits to make their productivity fly. And then services are the ultimate key. We make sure that your migration is smooth through migration toolkits. Our client success team can extract data from your existing gear. And when you have any type of issue after you go live, we troubleshoot that for you. You call our North American concierge team, we troubleshoot, and we'll escalate to Ring Central if needed on your behalf, which means your tickets are going to get more visibility, faster closes, and just quicker resolutions. Now, this is a service that is built to be easy. It's built to be easy for the end users. It's as easy as email. We all have one email address that synchronizes on all of the devices we use. With Avaya Cloud Office, every user will have a single business phone number that will synchronize on all the devices that you use. So it makes it easy to be reachable. You don't have to give people your office number, your cell phone number, your private home number. One number reach. But conversations are more than just phone calls. With your one number access, you'll not only be able to make unlimited phone calls, you'll also be able to send and receive unlimited faxes and text messages as well. So there's never a reason to give anybody your cell phone number, which is powerful because you have less to manage. When somebody calls your office line and you can't answer the call, instead of having to deal with two voicemail boxes, everything goes to one unified inbox. You can even get it in your email if you want, with speech to text transcriptions and a host of other functionality. So we've made it super easy for the end users, and then we've bundled in the services. We've made things that used to be apps, we've turned them into features. So a good example is video messaging. We include video meetings for every single subscriber. Each user can invite up to 200 parties to join them in high definition, like what we're doing here. You'll be able to see 16 people on screen at once, and you can share your desktop or a specific app with the people that joined you on your call, like we're doing here. But what about the folks who couldn't attend in real time? There's more to meetings than just showing up and sharing your desktop. With Avaya Cloud Office, we help empower users to take the work out of getting work done. First, by helping the people who couldn't attend in real time. Yeah, sure, you can record a meeting so this way people can watch the replay, but sometimes I don't have 30 to 60 to 90 minutes to watch a replay. You don't have to. You can catch up either by watching the replay or reading the notes that people have shared inside of the same tool. Speaking of sharing, you can also upload the documents that this team is working on into that same tool, which means no more digging through your hard drive to find that file, realizing it's too big to go through email, so then go into Dropbox, uploading it, waiting for it to finish uploading, copying that share link, going to your email, sending that email share link to people. Instead of all of that headache, everything happens in one place, and it's synchronized on all of your devices. So if you're on the go and you need to review that PowerPoint, just open up the app on your phone and you're ready to go. And then the last element of making work less work is helping track those promises. I'll get back to you. I don't know the answer, but I'll get back to you. And as soon as we disconnect from the bridge, we forget about that because we're not tracking them. But with Avaya Cloud Office, you can track the tasks that are assigned in the meeting. So the next time you meet, everybody's on the same page, whether they read the notes or they watch the replay. You have all access to the latest version of the file that we're working on, and you can check in on those tasks to make sure they're working through to finish production. It's a super easy, highly integrated experience for your end users. But it's not just end users that we're thinking about. We also care about our friends in IT. In the past, to manage a phone system, you needed special tools and special training. This is as easy as online banking. Just log in, and you can make changes to your entire organization. You can modify call queues, you can change auto attendance, you can even add users and phone numbers anywhere around the world in a matter of minutes. And you can do this from any device. So if you're on the go and an urgent request comes in, just open up the app on whatever device happens to be handy. It doesn't need to wait for you to be in front of a computer. Now, another group that we want to help is our friends on the help desk. What happens when something goes wrong? When a user reports a bad audio or a bad video experience? This is all running over public internet 9 times out of 10. With Avaya Cloud Office, I mentioned the buffet line of data in the form of analytics. They're like a time machine. So when somebody reports a bad experience, you can start investigating. You can round up the usual suspects. When we hear bad audio or bad video, we think network. Was there packet loss? Was there jitter? Was it on the upload side, on the download side? You'll see all of that. But in a world where we're using devices like computers and tablets and cell phones to join meetings and to make calls, sometimes the villain of the story is the device used, and you'll see all sorts of information about that as well. Device model number, operating system installed, network connection, carrier, processor utilization, memory allocation, all of it is included with your subscription so you can troubleshoot and find out exactly what went wrong. And this is also embedded into our apps, so you can access it while you're on the go. Now, speaking of in the apps, I mentioned we integrated calling, messaging, and meetings to make work easier to do. But we also realize there's a lot more tools that your users leverage to get their work done. We integrate with all of them. So if you're using Salesforce, Zendesk, ServiceNow, Zoho, HubSpot for your CRMs, ServiceNow, we do all of them. We integrate with all of them. If you're using Office 365 or G Suite, we integrate with those for single sign-on, for one click to join meetings, for contact synchronization. We integrate with non-business applications, things like Dropbox, Google Drive, Trello for project management. If it's got a user base, chances are we've already got an integration for it. And if we don't, if you've built your own app, you can use our API toolkits to build integrations yourself at no cost. Now, I mentioned earlier, my customer was using Slack for messaging, and they moved to Avaya Cloud Office because they were spending on Slack. You may be using something that doesn't carry a cost, something like Microsoft Teams. So there's no benefit in terms of cost to move from Teams. Why would you move from Teams? With Avaya Cloud Office, you don't have to. We've got integrations with Microsoft Teams, no matter what licensing tier you're on with Microsoft. So you don't need to upgrade to the expensive E5 licensing tier in order to integrate voice with Teams. We can do it with Avaya Cloud Office. So if you don't have the expensive license, we can integrate with a plugin application. You get a dialer inside of Teams that you can use to make calls. It'll cross-launch the Avaya app when you make a call. If you have an E5 license or you've bought the phone system entitlement with Microsoft Teams, we can integrate that way as well with what we call Cloud PBX for Teams. So it's a direct connection. We're feeding voice into Teams. Microsoft is your end client. But if Microsoft is unavailable because their SLA is only 3 nines, that means 8 hours of downtime per year. It's okay. Your users can still sign into their Avaya Cloud Office portal, a web app, and they can still make and receive calls while Microsoft is offline. Once it's back, you can go back to your Microsoft environment. We make it easy to integrate with Avaya Cloud Office and Microsoft. So no matter what you're doing, we've made it simple and easy for the end users. We've made it easy for our friends in IT. We work with whatever environment you have, whether it's standalone applications or what people typically would think of as a competitor in Microsoft. And we do all of this while lowering your total cost of ownership by simply moving from on-premise to cloud. That has been my quick little opening act. Now I'm going to hand it back to, I don't know if I'm handing it back to Kelsey or to Christina for the rest of tonight's festivities. If there are any questions, feel free to either ask now or put them into the chat, and I'll hang out and answer some of those questions for you. Thanks.
Oh, someone had a question?
Kelsey, one question back on the ACO piece. Have you ever seen any stats or numbers or anything? We know that having a cloud-based phone system is a heck of a lot less work in the day-to-day management of the phone system. Once it's up and running, it's a lot less effort than having an on-premise system. But have you ever seen any studies or any surveys or anything where people say it's half as much work or a third or a quarter? Or, you ever seen anything like that? Because I know it's going to be less work if my phone system's in the cloud, but I'm not sure how much less work.
Sure.
You ever seen anything?
Steve, are you still on?
Steve had to hop off. Sorry about
Okay.
that.
But in my personal experience, yes, I have seen it. I don't have any documentation, but I will get with the smarter people and I can get some use cases of how that truly was an ROI on your OPEX plus then now your IT can go focus on something else because right now a lot of the IT is focusing on malware attacks and other things, but yes, this is important. So I will get back with you. I'm happy to share that with everyone on the call of a use case that's helped their IT department significantly and how and why. So great question.
Hey, Kelsey, along with that question, is there a line in regards to the number of handsets that there's that there's the change? Because I've got a client right now that I've tried to push him towards the cloud, and I'm a consultant, and I've said, hey, we need to go this route. And he's like, no, he wants the physical phone system on site, and it's a very small system. And I think I've told him, I think you're better off going with the cloud, but he's fighting with me on it. And ultimately, he pays the bill, so it's going to be whatever he wants. But I would like to know if there's where that ROI line is, to where you say, okay, if you have X amount of handsets, it's better to stay with on-premise, or X amount, you need to go to cloud.
I can tell you from personal experience, we have moved customers that they were a 10-user shop and they were paying what they thought was a good deal, $1,800. Another customer was $2,100. We came in offering less than $1,000. Okay. So every customer size-wise, from 1 user to 50,000 users plus, there's going to be an ROI because there's no maintenance. There's no upgrade charges. Every time that new features are released, your customer gets the new latest and greatest. So most on-prem, not like an Avaya hard-driven solution, but AT&T or Spectrum, those carriers, you look at their phone bill compared to what we can get them for a license of ACO, they're instantly going to start saving money, plus have the additional features that they didn't know they needed to grow their business. So absolutely, the smaller businesses honestly have a bigger ROI than the enterprise customers. Okay. Because enterprise customers will renew their maintenance, or they'll, meet it and save a little bit of money and go cloud. But smaller companies, they're getting hosed. So if you have those customers or you want our help, let us know, because that's a big ROI for some of these smaller companies for sure.
Okay, thank you.
I know we're approaching the 5:30 Central mark, which for a lot of you is already past your 5 o'clock cutoff. So I appreciate everyone staying extra for those of you are on the different time zones. But if anyone does have any extra questions, feel free to stay on. But an SKC rep will reach out to everyone that attended to see how we can help you. Whether it's an ROI, feature add-on, whatever it is, some SKC rep in your territory, I will make sure reaches out to you. If you need anything from me, You guys all have my contact from the invites that went out. So if no one else has any other questions, thank you for spending your Thursday evening with SKC. And have a wonderful weekend.
Christina,
Thank you, Kel.
You as well.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.